In this section we talk about Flowwise. First I want to show you what are the differences between NNN and Flowwise, because Flowwise has some advantages over NNN. Even if NNN is the tool where you can make more automations, Flowwise has still some upsides and you should know them. As soon as you understand the upsides and downsides, obviously we will install Flowwise locally with Node.js. Then we will install Postgres in Docker. This is a really cool open source vector database that is enormously easy to use, easier than Supabase. You just have to run one command and everything is set. Then we will insert the data into this Postgres vector database, and we will also include a record manager. This is some of the coolest things that you can do in Flowwise, and managing your vector database is in Flowwise the best experience that I know in the whole AI ecosystem. Next we will create a local RAG agent. And we will do this as simple as possible with agent workflows. Obviously you can also include the model context protocol. I will show you the interface. And basically all the nodes that are included in Flowwise so that you can build whatever you want. And lastly I want to give you a brief overview of some more workflows, the marketplace, and basically everything that you can do in Flowwise. You can even connect NNN and Flowwise if you want to. So see you of course in the next video. Before we talk about Flowwise, we need to make something clear. Now Flowwise is an easy drag and drop interface, but in the backbone works the whole LangChain ecosystem. The LangChain ecosystem is basically perfect for building AI applications, AI agents, and a lot of interesting things. Inside of the LangChain ecosystem, we do have LangChain itself, but we also have LangGraph. LangGraph is specifically there to create AI agents, and here you have a lot of control. And as soon as you use Flowwise, most of the time LangChain will work in the backbone. Especially if we use these agent workflows, basically the code of LangGraph will work in the background. If we use simple chat flows, we will use LangChain under the hood. So remember, we will use LangGraph. In the LangChain ecosystem, we do also have LangSmith. LangSmith is specifically there if you want to observe your workflows, if you want to do evaluations, or also for deployments. For us, it's not that important because obviously we run everything locally. You just need to understand that as soon as we use Flowwise, the code from LangGraph will work in the background as soon as we build these agents over the next videos. If you come on these documentations, you can also come on LangGraph directly because we will use mostly LangGraph workflows. And you can also use the code itself. If you are a coder, feel free to install this locally and also work with the code yourself. And LangGraph has a lot of interesting things included, obviously also the model context protocol and a lot more. I just want to make this as simple as possible. I just want to tell you that we can build agents really easy, but in the background the code of one of the most powerful frameworks named LangGraph will work. And if you come on GitHub, obviously you can also take a look yourself if you want to. Just remember, we will do it as easy as possible. This section will be a Flowwise crash course. And maybe you ask yourself why you need Flowwise if you're already using NNN. And that's also a great question. Generally speaking, you can do more things with NNN. If you come here on this NNN webpage, you can also make AI automations. But still, I do think that Flowwise has value. Flowwise is first of all, I think at least easier to use. Second of all, it's made specifically for AI agents. So not really for automations, but AI agents, they work really great. And if you want to create AI agents with a vector database, you have a gigantic edge over NNN. You can include record managers really easy. And that's why we also need to take a look at Flowwise. And yes, also Flowwise supports the model context protocol, so you can even trigger MCP servers that you create inside of NNN. You see here that Flowwise has joined Workday. Basically, Workday has invested in Flowwise. And that's why I think that Flowwise will be here for a long time. The second biggest edge over NNN is actually that Flowwise is 100% open source. If you come here on GitHub, you can basically scroll down. And down here you see that we have here a Apache 2.0 license. And if we come on NNN and we come here on this GitHub profile, and if we scroll down, you will actually see another license. Here we do have a fair code license. We will talk at the end of the course about these licenses in detail. But Flowwise is just simply 100% open source, and NNN it's actually not. Flowbus basically looks something like this in the interface. And maybe you already understand the OpenAI API. On the OpenAI playground you have such an agent builder. And if you build AI agents, or if you use for example such a template that they have included, for example this thing here, you can actually see that this looks like really similar to Flowbus. Flowbus was of course invented a long time ago. This was introduced a lot later. Also here you can use MCP and a lot more. And I would guess that they have also took a look at the open source code from Flowbus. Basically Flowbus with this Apache 2.0 license lets other people build on top of the code of Flowbus. So maybe OpenAI also took a look right here. In the background of OpenAI works of course the OpenAI agent SDK, and with these agents from OpenAI you are also limited to the AI models from OpenAI. And Flowbus on the other hand 100% open source, and you can also use local models. That's why this is really cool. So the next thing that we need to do is to obviously install Flowbus. You understand its value, so you should install it. You need to scroll down and here you see the two commands that you need to run. npm install -g Flowbus to install it globally, and then npx Flowbus start to start it. If you come on this GitHub repo, you obviously also find a lot of other options. You can deploy it on Docker if you want to, so if you like to work with Docker, you can also install it directly into Docker. You can also self-host it on a lot of different services like Render, Hostinger and a lot more. And also here you find the quick start. And after the quick start you can basically see that it's listening to localhost 3000. The first thing that you obviously need to do is you need to download and install Node.js. I hope you have already done this. And if you have problems you should use NVM in order to manage your versions. So what we need to do is of course to come into this Node.js command prompt, and we need to type in the exact two commands that they tell us. So basically the first command is this right here, so you copy this, you insert it down here and then you send it out. This will take right now a few minutes. I would guess like until 2 to 5 minutes. I have obviously already done this. I have Flowbus already running on my global machine. That's why I only use the second command. So as soon as this is installed, you just need to run your second command. You simply throw this in, send it out, and you need to wait once again for a minute or two. And then Flowbus will be actually open on this localhost 3000. So I will actually wait until everything is done, and then we will take a small look at the interface. And as soon as you understand the interface, we will build awesome stuff over the next videos, because we can also host vector databases locally. We will no longer use Supabase, we will use Postgres directly. And we will build really awesome RAG applications also with a record manager. This means this makes it really easy for you to update your vector databases. Flowbus has fired up now and it's listening at port 3000. If you have already running something on port 3000, this can also listen to 3000 at 1 or something similar. But for me, Docker is closed, so I have nothing at port 3000, so I simply press on this local host, and then we are actually once again in Flowbus. And here you see that we need to sign in. The first thing that you need to do is of course obviously to set a password. And then you can log in yourself. You need to log in with email and password. Don't ask me why here is Postgres right now. This is obviously not my email address. But this thing should work, so I log in. As soon as you are logged in, you will be in an interface that looks something like this. Generally speaking, I have already explained Flowbus in a few videos, also in other courses. But in this course we want to do something special here. That's why we simply do a quick overview of this interface. The first thing on the upper right corner is that you should go obviously in the dark mode. Then you have here the settings, and here you see that you can export or import all your workflows if you have a second instance. You can press on this version in order to see if everything is up to date. You can update your profile and you can log out. If you press on the version actually, and you see that this current version is a lot behind to the newest version that they have on their GitHub profile, you can actually make an update. Here in my case you see that I already made my updates a few days ago, and I am on the newest version. So here you see the current version and also the latest version. That's the version where I am at. But if you are behind, you should make an update. And making updates is also really easy in Flowbus. You come obviously in your Node.js command prompt and you type in npm update -g Flowbus and you send it out. I will not do this yet because my instance is somehow up to date. I did this like 1 or 2 weeks ago, and you don't have to do this all the time. So if you think you need an update, you can run this command. Obviously you would close Flowwise down before you run this update. That's why I closed this, because I don't need this update yet. And then this interface is basically really easy to understand. On the left side you have chat flows, and if you press on it you can create chat flows here. We will not create a lot of chat flows. What we want to use are agent flows. And on agent flows we have this version 2, and if you press here add new, you can basically see a relatively similar interface than you already saw, of course, with this OpenAI playground. We will work with this one. This is the newest update, this works relatively great. I don't want to save this right now. We will come to this in the next video in more detail. Then you have here these executions, so here you see what executions run when. Then you have these assistants. These assistants, I do think that they are depreciating over time. We will absolutely not work with these ones. You will find the marketplace. On the marketplace you find a lot of different workflows. You also find workflows for agentic RAG agents, and if you press on them you can actually see that people create really cool workflows and you can absolutely use them. Then if we come back once again, you see down here that we have tools. So other people have already written a lot of tools. If you want to integrate, for example, to HubSpot, you can use these tools. And here is the code already pre-written. You just have to copy your token here, for example. Don't worry about this yet. Then you have these credentials. Here are just the credentials that you have connected to Flowwise. We connect some credentials over the next videos. Here you can also set variables if you want to. You can make API keys so that you can trigger Flowwise from outside. And down here you find these document stores, and they will be important because here we can make really great RAG applications in the next video. I do think that this is basically everything that you need to know. So I see you of course in the next video where we install a local vector database with Postgres, and then we will create an awesome AI agent with these agent workflows. And remember, this record manager will be cooler than you think. In this video we will install a vector database, and we will use Postgres. This makes it really easy to work with. Generally speaking you could also use Supabase, but I do think it makes sense to use here a different vector database so that you are a little bit more organized. Postgres is completely open source and you can also run this. Obviously we can install this in Docker, and that's what we will do next. So you come into Docker Desktop and you see that I have already a Postgres vector database running here. It's basically this thing here, pg vector db. Everything that you need to do in order to install this in your Docker instance is you can simply come down in your terminal and you type in the following command. It's exactly this command that I will obviously give you. Docker run -d --name pg vector db. So you see we use Docker Desktop and the name that we are creating is pg vector db, exactly the thing that you see here. Then -e. Then we use our Postgres username and we simply use Postgres. These are the default values. You can absolutely use just these default values because this runs locally, of course. Then -e and the Postgres password. Also the Postgres password is simply Postgres. We will need this later. Then -e once again. The Postgres DB. I simply call this vector_test. This is basically the name of the vector database that we will create. And then -p for the port, and we will simply use exactly this port, 5432. So this is the port where you can reach this vector database. And we will use akane/pg vector. So you simply copy this entire command. You throw this into your terminal and then you send it out. And then this thing will appear and it will also start automatically. But what I need to do is I need to press start here so that this vector database is active. And I'll see you obviously in the next video as soon as we work with this vector database and we will create a local RAG application with this vector database. It's really that easy. Just throw this command into your Docker desktop and you are ready. In this video I want to show you how you can use this vector database and how you can upload files here. If you come here on files, basically I have already included some files. And this will be relatively easy because Flowwise can manage all of it. This right here is empty and I want to show you why. If you come back right here, you see that my vector database is right now not active. So the first thing that you need to do is to come on Actions and press play. If you already see this button right here, it's already running. Then I also want to show you that you cannot press right here. So if you press here, I can show you this on this web page, boom, this thing opened up and this thing will not work. But this is expected. So don't expect that you can go to this host. This will work, but this will work overflow-wise. If you press now once again on this vector database and if you come on files, you can actually search them through the files that you upload. You will find all these files somewhere down here under var, then lib, so this thing, then Postgres SQL, and then data. So down here you will find the data that you upsert. Like I told you, I have already upserted some data, but we will of course include new data here. Basically, you also don't have to remember this. Everything that you have to do is to simply come on your container, press play, and as soon as this thing is green, you can upsert data. In order to do that, you can obviously come to Flowwise, and here you can come on document stores. Now we simply add a new document store, and we call this, for example, PostgreSQL, and we press add. Then you can press on it because right now it's empty. And the first thing that you need is obviously a document loader. And here it depends on what you want to upload. You can upload stuff from Airtable. You can use an API loader. You can use Apify. You can use a Cheerio web scraper. So if you have, for example, web pages and you want to scrape them, I would recommend you to use the Cheerio web scraper because this thing is great. You can also use a Brave Search API document loader, Confluence, CSV files, doc files, different file loaders if you have entire folders. You can use Firecrawl, you can use Google Drive, Google Sheets, Jira. I hope you get the message. You can use whatever you want. To make this as easy as possible, you can either use plain text or PDF files. I would guess because you want to work locally that you have most likely either plain text or PDF. So I simply press on these PDF files, but remember you can do whatever you want here. Then we upload a PDF. And in an optimal world, you would of course transform your PDF files, for example, into a markdown file. And if I come back once again on these document loaders, you could simply use a normal text file, and in this text file would be, for example, your markdown text. But to make this fast and to show you that even without markdown this works relatively great, we simply use a PDF file and we press upload file. And we love, of course, this Doggo PDF, and that's why I want to stick with this PDF. So I simply uploaded this Doggo PDF, as you can see right here. Obviously you can upload more than just one PDF file. Then the usage, we will use one document per page. This is completely fine. We will not use the legacy build, so leave this off. You can also include metadata. You already understand metadata. So if you want to include metadata, you can simply press here on this plus and you can give some key names if you want to. But I don't want to include metadata right here because it's not necessary for me. Then you can also use omni metadata keys. So for example, key 1, 2, 3, and so on if you want to. This is also not needed for me. And then we can use different text splitters. This is also cool in Flowwise. If you press down here, you see that you have a lot of splitters. You have a character text splitter, you have a code text splitter, you have HTML to Markdown text splitter. This is a really great text splitter. If you do, for example, web scraping with this Cheerio web scraper, you can use a HTML to Markdown text splitter and you don't have to transform your data by hand into Markdown. The splitter will do this automatically for you and it will clean up your entire space a bit. Then you have the normal Markdown text splitter, a recursive character text splitter, and then the token text splitter. The thing that I like to use for most of the use cases is this recursive character text splitter. This works on nearly every single file that you want to use. I would recommend you to stick with this text splitter unless you do scraping from HTML web pages. So use either this one or that one, and obviously if you work with code you use this one. So we simply roll with this text splitter. Then you can give chunk size and overlap. This PDF is relatively small, that's why I just want to use a chunk size of 800 and the overlap with 100 is more than enough. And then you can also use custom separations. If you have a markdown file, you can use custom separations, for example, with these hashtags. Every single hashtag would be, for example, a new headline in a markdown file, and it could make sense to make a new split as soon as a new headline starts. But for us it's not needed because we do not have markdown included. That's basically everything that we need to do. And then you can simply press preview chunks. Then you can take a look at your chunks if the chunks are fine or not. So you see that we have right now 20 chunks as preview out of our 34 chunks that we get in total. If you simply press on them right here, you see that this is the first chunk. This is obviously the start from this dog training. The source is here just plop, so we don't have like any metadata included because we simply don't need it. If you press on the second chunk, this is a chunk from the middle. And this chunk also makes sense for me. So I do think our chunks, they seem to be fine. The first chunk obviously ends because this is just some pre-words. And then the chunks in the middle are a bit bigger. So you can see I do think our chunking works. This seems to be fine. So as soon as you find something valuable, you simply press process and then your chunks are processed. These chunks are stored right now exactly here. Of course, you can simply go on, use another document loader and insert even more PDFs or more other files. For example, right now you can do web scraping and similar things, but I just want to make this simple. We roll with just these files here. In order to upsert these chunks, you simply press here on options and then you press upsert chunks. Of course, you can do preview and process and view and edit chunks if you want to clean these chunks a bit up, but I just want to upsert these chunks, so we press right here. And right now, the first thing that you need to do is obviously use the embeddings that you want to use. We simply press on them and then you can use the embeddings that you like. For us, because we want to work locally, the Ollama embeddings will most likely be the right ones. So we press on them, then of course you need to give the right base URL. This should be the base URL from our Ollama. If you have forgot this, of course, you can simply come in a terminal and you type in Ollama serve. You send it out and you see if this thing is the same that is here included. And here we also don't have the bug that we had in NIDN. The local host is here completely fine, only the number needs to be right. So 11434, 11434. This seems to be fine. Then we need to give the model name. So what we do is Ollama list to see the models that we have included. We have already downloaded these Noemic embed models and we obviously use them to embed. So we copy these, we come back here and then we insert these Noemic embed models. I already use them a lot, so I can simply click on them. Then the number of GPUs and the number of threads, simply leave the default values included. And we use mmap, so leave this on. Then the next thing is that you need to use a vector database. You press on it and obviously we want to use Postgres because we have installed it in Docker. You press on it, then you need to give credential names. I already have some credential names. So this is basically Postgres local for me. I have already these credentials included, but I want to create new ones so that you see how it works. I press on it, then you give it a name. I call them Postgres local 2. And right now you need to give a user and a password, and this is really important. If you come into Docker, you basically see that the Postgres user is obviously Postgres and the Postgres password is also Postgres. So you need to use exactly the same thing here. So you can simply copy them or also type it in here if you want to, because this is important. So the user needs to be exactly the same. And then the password also needs to be exactly the same. So simply use Postgres on both and then you press add. Boom. Then the host in this instance is of course our local host. And now the database. And also this is important. Our database is obviously vector_test. This is also just the stuff that I gave you right here. So vector_test is the name of our database. So we simply use it. And the port is obviously 5432. You can also see this in Docker. The port is 5432. This is also the default port from Postgres, but you need to type this out, 5432. We don't want to use SSL, and if you find here settings that you don't understand, just come with the mouse over it. Then the table name, we simply call it documents. You can also give different names if you have like more tables, just to clean it up a little bit, but for us it's not really needed. Then the distance strategy, cousin works here fine. This is simply how the vector database is organized. So you organize these words by cousins. This makes it easy to make clusters that work. Then the file upload, you simply leave it at off. Because if you toggle this at on, you can also upload stuff on the chat and this can also be a bit redundant. Then additional configurations, most likely you will need none. The top K, we simply leave it at 4. You obviously understand the top K. You can increase it to 6 or 8 if you really feel that you have to do this. Then the Postgres metadata filter. We don't have included metadata, that's why we don't want to filter right here. But if you have a gigantic database, you can use metadata filters if you have applied metadata. And then the content column name. we simply leave it at this default values of page content. Then we scroll up, because the last thing that we want to include is of course a record manager. This makes it now really powerful. Because if you upsert your stuff right now, technically it would be possible. If you upsert it and then you upsert it again and again and again, you will basically embed the same documents over and over again. But the record manager makes it easy to record all your chunks. It makes it impossible to embed the same document twice or 3 times. And so your database stays clean, and it's also easy to delete stuff from your database. So please use a record manager. In order to do this, you simply press on it. You can absolutely use a SQLite record manager. This makes it really easy. You don't have to type in anything, but we will use our Postgres record manager because we have already installed this. So if we press on these, of course, we need to connect to credentials. We simply use the same thing as here. Then the host is obviously also localhost, so we simply use our localhost. Then the database is obviously also the same as right here, so our vector_test. The port is also the same port as here, so we copy these and insert it here. And all the rest we can simply leave it at the default values. The last thing that we want to do is the cleanup. Because the cleanup, we want to have this at full. This makes it basically easy to delete stuff from your vector database if you have to. And this is basically everything that we want to have. So we simply press upsert right now. And we have an error. Let me check what's the error right here. Okay, the error is obviously our port here. It's of course 5432 and not a 1. Please check that you don't make the stupid mistakes just like I did. Right now I do think that we are fine. We press upsert once again. And boom, right now you see that this worked. We have added 33 documents to our vector database. You can also press here on test retrieval. What you can do here basically is you can simply type in the stuff that you want to do. Let's just type in dog training. And if you send this out, you will get your documents back. And you see the latency is extremely quick. So this seems to work perfectly. And right now I want to show you the coolest thing. You can even change the stuff from your database right here. You can increase or decrease the top K if you go right now to 8 for example. And if you apply this once again, you will get back, of course, our 8 chunks. Or this 10, the stuff that you type in obviously. But for us 4 chunks or the default value is obviously more than enough. So we simply leave this at this default values of 4. This works for me. And right now I want to show you the coolest thing. Why do we have included our record manager? We come obviously once again on this thing down here, and then we press on upsert chunks. Right now, these are basically exactly the same chunks. And see what happens if I press upsert. Boom, I press upsert, and now you see what happened. Nothing happened. We added 0 new chunks, because all of these chunks are already included. We haven't updated any chunks. We simply skipped our 33 chunks because our vector database was smart enough to detect that these chunks are already included. And we also haven't deleted any chunks. So you see, this makes it easy and simple to manage your vector database. You will never upsert the same chunks twice or 3 times once again. You can come back on your document store once again. You can press on these and you can add new chunks if you want to. And if you upsert all your chunks, only the new chunks, only the relevant chunks will get added and the other chunks will get skipped thanks to our record manager. And this makes it so powerful. So basically what we did in this video is we have filled this vector database with the chunks that we need. And Flowise makes it as easy as possible. On these document stores, everything is really organized perfectly. And obviously you can come back once again, organize your chunks here, add new chunks, add complete new documents with complete new loaders, and manage everything from here. This is the easiest and most efficient way to create a vector database and to manage a vector database. And that's why Flowise is so powerful. And in the next video we will go on, we will build a workflow and we will try to include this vector database in one of our AI agents. So see you obviously in the next one. We have filled up our vector database, so this thing is no longer empty. And that's why we come right now on agent flows and we will actually build our agent. And by the way, I wasn't on my PC for a few hours, that's why I have to sign in once again. This can happen here, so log in. But you will see that the document store is still there. Then we come obviously on agent flows. Here we come on version 2 and we press add new. The first thing that you should always do is to simply press save and give this a name. Let's just say local AI test, and we press save. Right now you see that we always have a start node here. And with the start node you can basically also chat with this. If you come on the right side, you can type in hey if you want to. So you see that the process flow basically got processed, but obviously nothing will happen because we have nothing included after this thing. So we can delete this by pressing on this button, so clear, boom, then we are empty once again. The next thing that you see right here is that you can use a checklist, but for us it's obviously not needed right now. Down here you have some shortcuts, but obviously you can also use your mouse to do the stuff. You will find here on the right side the settings. This means you can view these messages, you can view leads. Basically, if you publish your chatbot, you can view what leads this chatbot made for you. You can come on these configurations, you can save these things as templates, you can duplicate it, you can load different agents, you can export an agent, or you can delete it. So as soon as this thing is built, you can do a lot of things. Besides here saving, you have also this button right here, and with this button you can basically embed your chatbot into a web page, for example, and you can do this either as a pop-up HTML, you can do this as a full page HTML, you can use pop-up React or also full page React. If you are a Python or JavaScript developer, you can also do this, and you also find the curl. This basically means that you can also call your workflow as a curl in an add-in, for example. So you can make, for example, an API request. You can import this curl into an add-in, just like you already saw with the picture generation that we did. And then you can trigger your chatbot or your automation that you make right here. And you can also come here on Share Chatbot. And if you come basically on this and make it public and open it up, you also have here a nice interface that you can use. But obviously, before you can use this interface, we need to build out something. And in order to build out something, you can come on the left side. If you press here plus, you can find all the nodes that you should basically use. And if you see this right here, you can basically describe what you want to make. Let's just say you want to create something for Slack. If you press on these, this is basically right now the prompt that we are typing in, but you can obviously also type in from hand what you want to create. Then you need to use a model. Just to make this as simple as possible, I want to use a closed model and I want to use Anthropic, and I will use it over OpenRouter because you already understand OpenRouter. So I come here on Chat OpenRouter. I have already some connections, of course. Simply use this one right here. Then we need to use the model name. I simply use this Anthropic model Claude 3.7. By the way, Claude 4.5 is of course a lot better, but I do think also this thing is completely fine. This is just for testing purposes right now. And here you have some more settings, but I just want to press generate so that you can see what this thing is doing. And you may ask yourself why I do not use any local AI, because the local AI models, at least that I can run, are a bit too weak for this use case. So I press generate, and then you can basically see how Flowwise is generating your agent that you can use immediately. And boom, this was right now generated, obviously from AI. You see we have the start node. The start node comes into this generate response, and if you press on it, everything is filled out, just you need to have it. Then you have send to Slack, because we want to include Slack, and here we use the model context protocol in order to trigger Slack. And lastly, you have a confirmation with a message that you can include right here. Obviously we don't want to use this specific workflow, so I just want to delete all of it. I need to show you some of these basics here, obviously, and we should do this by hand. In the next video I will give you some more options. So you can press plus, and then you see the things that you can do. You can use a condition node, for example, and if you throw in the condition node, you can actually stick it here together, and then you can make if-else statements if you want to. And then, for example, if people want to talk to this specific route, a different LLM can answer, and if they want to talk to another route, another LLM can answer. And so you can work with this if-else node or condition node. Then you have the condition agent. This can basically do the same thing, but this condition agent can actually reason about it with an LLM instead of just a simple if-else function. Then you have the custom functions. If you include a custom function, you can basically write a little bit of JavaScript code if you want to. And obviously you can also use an LLM to write this code, but we don't need it yet. Then you have a direct reply. So if you simply want to have a direct reply, you can simply hard code it here. This is right now obviously a stupid example. I want to show you what happens here. If I simply type in here like hello, and I send it out to this thing, so it will simply tell me hey in return, because this is a hard-coded message that comes back immediately. But obviously you can make a whole automation, and one end of the automation could be a direct reply. Besides this, you have execute flow to trigger other workflows. You obviously also have here standard HTTP requests. You have human in the loop if you want to check something before it happens. You have iterations. You have your normal LLM nodes. You have a loop if you want to loop over something. You have a retriever to retrieve documents from a vector database. Then you have the start node, you have some sticky nodes, and you have tools. The sticky nodes are just here to type in information for you. And these tools can be basically anything. And you can also use the tools that other people have created for you. This is really great. But right now I want to show you the most versatile option here. We can use an agent. If we stick the start node to the agent, we can actually come on this agent, and here you can do a lot of things. The first thing that you want to do is to obviously choose a model. And because we are in a local AI course, we use, of course, Ollama. But you can also use chat local AI if you want to, or obviously also all the other APIs. But we want to use Chat-Ollama to work completely locally. Then you see here the Chat-Ollama parameters. You can actually press on it, then you need to give the URL. This is obviously the right URL, but make sure to check it in your terminal. But type in, as always, Ollama serve, boom, this should be our URL, you already understand this. Then you want to give the model, and I want to use a Qwen38B model right here. Then you can set the temperature, allow image uploads if you want to. Do you want to enable streaming? This means so that you can immediately read what this thing is typing out. You can also include a JSON mode. We keep this alive for 5 minutes, so if nothing happens for 5 minutes, this thing will actually close down. Then you can also use the standard settings like .p, .k, and a lot more. And always come with the mouse over this stuff if you don't understand it. 99% of the time you can simply leave this as you want to. Then down here you find messages, tools, knowledge, knowledge vector embeddings, enable memory, memory type, the input message, and return response as user message. And you can even update flow state. Let's just start here by top. So obviously we already did this right here. Our model settings are done right now. The next thing is here message. If you press on that message, you can simply type in here if you want to add a system message, assistant, developer, or user. 99% of the time you want to have a system message, and here you can include the content. And if you make this big, you can simply type it out and see immediately what happens. And if you cancel this, you also see this right here. Boom. Here you can use AI in order to write a better system prompt. Let's just say you want to summarize a document. You can simply press generate, and this thing will go on and will generate a system prompt for you. And there you see it, and obviously we have our system prompt in Markdown because this thing understands how to write system prompts. But right now I don't need to have a system prompt actually. We just want to make this as easy as possible. Then you find here these tools, and if you press on it, you can include a lot of different tools. Here you will find the Brave Search API that you already understand. You can include a calculator, you can include Compose.io, this is a really great API. You can connect with Compose.io to I think over 500 different apps. You can use current date and time, a custom tool if you want to write it yourself. You can use the Exa search, Gmail. Basically you find all the coolest things that you want to. And if you scroll even down a bit more, you see that you can use the model context protocol. This means you can use the Brave Search MCP, the GitHub MCP, PostgreSQL MCP, Slack MCP, and so on. What we will use later is the Super Gateway MCP in order to connect it, for example, to an NN. This is really powerful. For right now, I don't want to include a specific tool because we want to make a RAG application first. And in order to do this, we need to include knowledge. We want to use a document store. So you can simply press on these, and then you can simply press right here. And what we want to include is obviously PostgreSQL. This is exactly the database that we have created. I hope you remember this name. This is exactly the thing that we have created in the last video. And then we need to describe when to trigger this tool. Use this tool for question about docs. And we also want to return the source documents. Boom. Then down here you can obviously add another knowledge base. So you can simply press plus and you can include all your other vector databases if you want to. I have a lot of them and that's why I can include a lot of things. But for us right now it's enough to have just one vector database. But remember, you can include all of them. If you make different vector databases with different embeddings, you can absolutely connect them really easy to one agent. And then down here you find the knowledge, basically the vector embeddings. If you press right here, you can also use the vector store with an embeddings model, the knowledge name, and you can describe the knowledge. But for us right now it's perfect to simply leave it with this one. Then down here, enable memory. You already understand the chat memory. This is the same thing as you already saw in NNN. This simply means that this thing understands for, in this example, 20 messages about what stuff you are talking. You can also use a window size and save this only for like 10 messages. I do think this is enough for me right here. Then an input message if you want to use one, and then the resource response as I want to have the user message and I don't want to mess with flow state. But right now I do think we are ready to rock for our first test. So simply press save right now and then I can open this up and I can type in hey once again, and then basically Quen will talk back to me, as you can see here, Quen38b. And there we have our answer. Hello again, how can I assist you today? I just want to show you that the memory is working. So for example, my name is Arnie, and if I send this out, this thing will actually remember this because the memory is obviously included. This thing greets me, and if I ask right now, what is my name? This will obviously understand my name. Your name is Arnie. And right now I want to ask something about our vector database. For example, what are the different methods to train a dog? I would guess that we get basically our 3 methods. I do think the yank and crank trainer should be included, and also these 2 other categories. One-time reward driven and one-time punish driven, something like this. And there we have our answer, and in order to read this a bit better, we want to make this big, of course. And then we can basically see that we have the positive reinforcement training, we have the force or pressure training, the old school thing, also called yank and crank, and lastly we have the balanced or adaptive training. And if we come right here, you see these are the 3 things, the first category, the second, and the third one. And also here you can see exactly this name yank and crank trainer. This was also the name that I had in mind. And if you scroll down, you can see from where this thing had its information. You can basically press right here, and here you can see the content that came back. These are basically the chunks that we get. It's obviously from our document. You find it immediately if you press on these chunks here. This is really cool. And you see that we used obviously our tool. You can press right here, and this is the entire tool output, so all the chunks combined. So this worked perfectly. And also here you can see the words yank and crank trainers. We have a working rec application. Congratulations. And right now I want to show you something. I want to show you that you can include obviously a lot of different tools. So you understand you can include multiple vector databases. And you can use all these other tools by pressing right here and simply use a tool. You can even use these custom tools. If we press save right here, you can come back. And if you come here actually on tools, you will find all these different tools that other people have written for you. For example, Airtable, Make, Discord, HubSpot, Slack, and so on. Besides this, you have obviously the tools that are already included right here. And here you really find nearly everything that you want to search. Let's just make a small example with a calculator, and then I want to show you the most exciting part. So we use this calculator. You can also come on parameters on most of these tools. On the calculator you don't have it. And by pressing on one simple button you can also include human in the loop. The first thing that we want to do is to simply make a test right here. I save this, I open this up, and I ask, for example, what is 55 times 9? If I send this out, most likely we will use the calculator. 55 times 9 should be exactly this number. And you see our function call to the calculator. So we basically used Python to calculate this. So this is fine. Right now I want to show you human in the loop, and this is just for illustration purposes. This human in the loop works normally like for every single tool call that you make. So we simply include it, we press save for a moment, And right now I ask exactly the same question. What is 55 times 9? Or this time times 11. We send it out. I do think this should be 605. Let's just wait. And it's obviously 605. And right now you see that we don't use the calculator. Why we did not use the calculator? The agent tried to figure this out himself, because it understood that it has to ask me if it can use this tool. So it thought that it is smart enough in order to do this. But what happens if I do a calculation that is a bit harder to do? Let's just say, what is 55 divided by 3.5 times 66? If I send this out, I do think that we will use our calculator tool. And if we use it, human in the loop will get activated. Let's just say actually these are reasoning models. These reasoning models are also strong with math. So I also need to see if this thing tries to call the tool or if it tries to figure it out without the tool. It figured it out without the tool. So we need to go even harder. Okay, and now I got it. Actually, I also got the result from our last question. But what I did right now is, I asked my question and I explicitly asked for a tool call, so for the calculator. And then basically the tool call will get executed. But before it will get executed, the tool calls me if it's okay that the tool gets called, because we have human in the loop. So this tool only gets called if I proceed right here. If I accept it, basically we will use our tool to calculate this. And this is basically the concept of human in the loop. Every time as soon as you use a tool, this tool will not get used unless it has to get used. And if it has to get used, you as a human need to proceed in order to do it. This is obviously really great if you want to use other tools. Let's just say you add tool once again and you use this time, for example, a Gmail tool. If you actually want to make here, of course, your credentials, and if you want to send stuff, it would be cool to make here a human in the loop so that the mail only gets sent if you proceed. This makes the failure rate a lot smaller. And right now I do think I hear you. You think, yeah, including tools is really cool, but especially if I already have some tools, it's a mess, because I have to do a lot. And that's why I want to show you that you can even use MCP as a tool. If you scroll down a tiny bit, you obviously see that you can use MCPs that are already built in, like the Brave Search MCP. Here you have the advantage basically that you can simply connect with your Brave Search API, and then you can use it as an MCP. And this has here the advantage that the MCP automatically translates your API call, and it will understand if you want to do a local search or a global search or something similar. But the coolest things for us is obviously that we can include custom MCPs. If you press on custom MCPs, you can actually simply come down here and you can type in exactly the MCP that you want to use. If you find something on GitHub, you can use this. And if you want to include the MCP that you have created, for example in n8n, also this is possible. And it's actually really easy to do. Everything that you have to do is to scroll down a tiny bit more, because you want to use the Super Gateway MCP. You simply press on these, then you press here on Super Gateway MCP parameters, and here you simply type in your SSE endpoint. So what you need to do is to come here, obviously once again on the server, you can press right here, then you come on this production URL, and you can simply copy this production URL, you come back into Flowwise, you type in --SSE, and then you throw in obviously your URL. Actually, I can copy this, we can delete this, so you can see for yourself how you have to include this. It's exactly this way. And then you should be able to connect to exactly this URL. And by the way, if this makes problems, because you already understand that the SSE endpoint is depreciating, you can actually do the following. On these arguments, you can follow the documentation. You will find it right here. And on this documentation, you can actually see, let's just wait, there it is, that you can also use stdio as command. You can use the server send event, but you can also use streamable HTTP, just like we did, of course, here, HTTP streamable. So you are super flexible here. Just follow the documentation if you have any problems. Because I don't want to make these videos too long, feel free to test all of this out. I simply press save because right now we do have a really cool rec application. We have our Postgres vector base included, we can call it, it works really reliable. It gives us the source document back. You saw a calculator with human in the loop, and the most important thing for me is that you understand that you can use this document stores to basically create and manage these vector databases really easy. And that's at least how I see it, the biggest advantage of Flowwise. And I'll see you in the next video where I want to show you like some more capabilities of Flowwise. And then you are free to play with this thing however you want to. Obviously you have a lot more options that you can create in Flowwise. You see here on chat flows that I have a view of them. Actually there are 4 pages of workflow just in my chat flow tab. Then if we come on agent flows, you see that I also have here 2 pages of agents version 3. And if I come on version 1, you see that I have 5 pages of workflows. So you see all in all I have over 100 workflows right here. But the easiest place for you is probably to simply come on this marketplace. And on this marketplace you will actually find nearly an endless amount of workflows, and new workflows get added constantly. The thing that you should basically do is, you should come on community templates, and most of the time, like on the first page, the first few workflows, they work really great. They are always ordered by the way that people like them. Obviously, if you search for something specific, you can simply either type in the name, or you can use different tags. Do you want to filter by popular? Simply press on it. Or do you want to filter by type? Should it be only agent version 2, because this thing is the newest? Or do you want to filter by framework, only LangChain or only Llama Index? Do you want to see them in this way, but I like obviously this way? Or do you want to filter by use case? Only agent workflows, only Q&A for documents, only with human in the loop, only for image generation, only for APIs, only for SQL, and so on. So I would strongly recommend you to take a look here. One of the coolest things that I like is agentic RAG. If you actually press on this, you find a workflow that is really cool. And I want to give you a brief overview. Obviously we start as always with a start node. Then if we check if the query is valid. If the query is not valid, we will simply give a general answer with a normal model. And obviously you can also use open source models instead of these GPT models. If the question is valid, we will generate a query, and the generated query will get to our vector database. So first we filter if we do need our vector database. If not, another AI model will answer. If we need our vector database, we will use our vector database. Then we will check if the documents are relevant. If the documents are relevant, this thing will answer immediately. If the answer is not relevant, we will regenerate the question. And we will do this because we have a loop back to retriever node. This means we will loop back again, and we will do the same thing, and we will do this as long until the answer is relevant, and then this thing will respond. I do think this is a great template. Simply take a look at it. Besides this, we have also really cool agents with human in the loop. If you actually press on these, you can see that the human input is here included. If you want to send mails, your human input is included. And if something is off, we will loop back once again and redo it. So I would strongly recommend you to take a look if you want to do a deep dive into Flowwise. And let me know if I should include more workflows. But generally speaking, I do think that NNN is the tool that is a bit more versatile. I would build most of my stuff in NNN. What I like Flowwise for is obviously RAG applications, because we have these document stores. This is the biggest upside of Flowwise. So if you want to build something with RAG, please take a look at Flowwise. Try to make here something with a record manager, and then try to build your own workflow that includes RAG. And if you want to do something specific, you can also go into NNN. And if you are on these agent flows, so the thing that we have created here, for example, and maybe you want to trigger exactly this workflow from NNN because you found out that you, generally speaking, like NNN a bit more, you can obviously do something like this. You simply save this, you come here, then you come on curl. You simply copy this curl, then you go into NNN. And we come, for example, on this simple workflow right here. And what you can do is, you can add this as a tool. You can simply press plus. You want to have a HTTP request tool. Then we need to make a description, make HTTP request and returns document and data, and so on. This tool gets used for questions about dogs, for example. And everything that you have to do right now is, you simply press import curl, you include this curl, and you press import. Boom. And then we make a post method to exactly this URL. We have no authentication, and we send everything that we want to send. The last thing that we have to change is here the value. So that we don't want to send, hey, how are you? We want to send something that the AI is deciding for us. So if I ask something about dogs, this AI agent will go on. It will trigger my workflow from Flowwise, and this thing will talk back to me. And this is basically how you can integrate Flowwise into n8n. If you have problems right here, it could also eventually happen that you have to use a hosted version of Flowwise. Sometimes it can make a tiny bit of problems, but normally also this should work. So you can absolutely give this a try if you want to. Like I told you, these are some special workflows, you can try to mess a bit around with these. But generally speaking, I would use this rec application simply directly into Flowwise and not really include them into n8n. I do think it makes more sense to see them separately. In this section we talked about Flowwise. You understand that Flowwise is 100% open source with an Apache 2.0 license. This would basically also mean that you can use this code from Flowwise and build on top of it. But we did it as simple as possible. Obviously, we install Flowwise and we use Node.js for it. If you have problems, use NVM to manage your versions and then you are ready to rock. As soon as Flowwise is installed, you should check from time to time if you need to make updates, and it's really easy. I already gave you all these commands. The interface is simple, and building rec applications is, at least how I see it, the best experience in the AI ecosystem with Flowwise. If you want to build rec applications, you have to install a vector database. We use Postgres and we installed it in Docker. You can simply run this command and everything is set. And then you can insert the data into this vector database with the data loaders from Flowwise. And here you can simply use whatever you want to. You can upload stuff from APIs, from web pages, from PDFs, from normal files. Whatever you have, you will find the right data loader for you. You can simply include it, use the right chunk size, the right chunk overlap, eventually include metadata. You can test everything out, also test the retrieval, and we will also include a record manager so that you don't insert unnecessary duplicated chunks. So managing your whole vector database is genius in Flowwise. As soon as your vector database is set up, obviously we want to build a AI agent or a simple rec application. We used the agents version 2 in order to do this. We simply use a start node and we used an AI agent. And on this AI agent you can include different LLMs, different tools, human in the loop, and obviously also your vector database. You can also make system prompts, you can use the whole AI workflow builder to build stuff for yourself. So you are really versatile in Flowwise and it's extremely easy to use. If you host this application, you can also share the web interface with other people, or if you work in your organization, obviously the people that are on the server, they can use this. You can eventually also embed this chatbot in a HTML web page or into a React web page. But if you want to do this, you have to host this application and we want to work locally, of course. And I also gave you a lot of different ideas. I would recommend you to look in this marketplace. You can also include the Model Context Protocol. You can connect to n8n via the Model Context Protocol. You can also do it vice versa and use Flowwise as a tool via HTTP request. So I do think that you can do a lot. And that's basically also the thing that you need to do. You need to do in order to learn, because you know that learning is same circumstances but different behavior. So right now you know that Flowwise makes it easy to create rec agents, and you have only learned if you create a rec agent, so please do this. Only then you have learned. And I want to tell you once again what really good learners do. They learn together, because obviously more people always know more than few people. And we could reach this goal by you sharing this course. And if the other person also gets value out from this course, they will describe the value to you because you have told them. Thank you for that, and I'll see you in the next section. The next section is the last section, and nobody skips the last section. So see you in the next one.